We didn't know which way the internet-driven businesses were going to go. We would look to television as the model. So we saw that there were media properties that were being created, shows, if you will, and then advertisers or companies wanted to buy eyeballs. They wanted to buy a segment of that media. So we knew that there would be a business in building the advertisements for companies, building the destinations that those advertisements took people to, the corporate websites, but also that there would be a business in the non-corporate media that people would go visit. The first project at Razorfish, which we started in the fall of '94 and incorporated in January of '95, the first client that we had was Time Warner, but Time Warner paid us to build a website for the New York Botanical Gardens. They didn't pay us to build a website for any of their properties. The idea was that if they could build a collection of botanical and gardening-oriented websites, eventually they could sell their Time Life series of gardening books through that media. Of course, we asked them why they couldn't do it right away, and their answer was because no one will ever type their credit card into the internet right now, and that was really one of the classic conversations of the time. When we were a small company, when it was just my partner Jeff and I, we didn't have a large portfolio of work to show clients. We only had a few projects that we worked on. So we created the Blue Dot for probably half a dozen different reasons. One of which was because we had a lot of friends who were artists, and we wanted to make sure that art was going to be present on the internet, that it wasn't just going to be corporations taking over. The second was because we wanted more portfolio pieces, and we wanted to be able to create things that looked very beautiful, but also things that we wanted to create that were not constrained by the needs of our corporate clients. At the time, and still to this day, we claim that the Blue Dot was the second animated web page in existence, and it certainly, it may not have been the second one, but it certainly was one of the first ones, and it was a bit of luck and serendipity. I was up very late one night, as I tended to be every night in the early days of Razorfish, working at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I came across a piece of information that Netscape had introduced its newest browser, and they published little snippets of code for people to download and install on their servers to create these different types of animations. Unfortunately, the code that they posted had a typo in it and a bug in it. So when people downloaded it and tried to use it, it wasn't working. I was lucky that I had a degree in computer science and was able to spot the problem very quickly and fix my version of the code and get some animations up on the website by the next morning. So the next morning when people started waking up, there were really only, we'll claim, 2 places you could go on the internet. There were probably 10, but only a couple of places on the internet that you could go to where you could actually see pages that were animated. And what I had done is taken the logo for the Blue Dot, which was just a blue circle with the words "The Blue Dot" in it in Knockout Helvetica, and animated 3 or 4 different versions of it. One that blurred in and out of focus, one that spun around. I can't remember what the other ones were, but we had that up and running. And what happened was the website didn't just gain sort of press and notoriety for being a good place to go look at art. It was also just listed as an example of an animated web page. Now this is, in some ways, very quaint to think about, the fact that something could move. But previous to that, it was difficult to even change the background color of the web page. You really didn't have much more, much at your disposal. I think the first website that we built for the New York Botanical Gardens was on a gray background because that was the only choice you had. The primary thrust of what we were trying to do as far as the curation of the Blue Dot was a major portion of it was taking traditional artworks that were analog and offline, photography, painting, illustration, and trying to create the appropriate ways of displaying those in a browser. The other were using the technology of HTML and the browser itself to create art and using that as the medium and that as the palette. It would be great for us to figure out real ways to archive this work the important and the unimportant, because we don't really even know now what the important pieces are. It's only with years or decades of hindsight that we do.